I'm joined by my awesome and most talented friend, Tyler Williams. He's with The Head and the Heart. He's their drummer, and they're going to be in town with Brandi Carlile at Gas South Arena in just a few short days. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I feel like the humidity's finally broken here in Virginia where I'm living and yeah, just enjoying being outside right now.
Oh, absolutely. I know. I feel like yesterday morning I went outside to take the garbage out in the morning, and I was like, what is this? Cold weather? What?
Yeah,
So
fall's on the way.
yes, completely agree. Pumpkin spice latte is out. I'm so excited. Now, I
Yeah.
want to talk with you about what's going on with music. You're coming to Gas South Arena, and I think the Head and the Heart is such a cool band because you guys have really been at it for the last 15 years, and I think you guys can speak to what's going on with music. How are you connecting with fans? Can you talk a little bit about your experience kind of with what's happening in the music industry right now?
Yeah, I think we've been around long enough where we've seen so many different changes happen throughout the industry. When we were first starting out, iTunes was sort of the way that people would purchase records. Vinyl was still big, but it's also even bigger today. So we've kind of gone through the iTunes era, the Spotify streaming era, and now it really feels like social media has sort of taken over where you discover music with TikTok and Instagram, especially. So, yeah, it's always been like there's always a bit of a learning curve every time a new sort of transition takes place into the next chapter of the music industry. But it's been kind of fun having to like relearn how to do things or really kind of like take what we do best and almost adapt to each situation, really. Brandy Carlisle is a great example of that, too. I mean, she's been around longer than us, and watching the way that she connects with her fans it's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And I've spent 10 plus years in the radio business, so seeing the fluctuation in the music charts and how music is absorbed today, it's so fascinating to me because, like you're saying, it feels like now a lot of people are finding their new music home through social media, through TikTok or Instagram
Mhm.
Reels. Can you talk about maybe how that's kind of affected how you think about music or how you perform music?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we really have never stopped focusing on just writing the best songs that we can write. That's been the goal since we started out, and not trying to fit in with whatever's happening in the moment. I think we've always tried to follow the muse of our own sort of creative path. For better or for worse, we can't do something that doesn't feel authentic to us. So I think it's always a balancing act of finding the way that we focus on the music that we're making while also kind of changing with the times, I guess, but always letting the music be the focus. I think, for us, we're kind of more private people, really. So I think the idea of like getting on social media and spilling our guts or being like, doing a dance or something. It doesn't necessarily feel like us. So we've had to find the things that feel authentic to us as we've, seen the landscape change a little bit.
Right. And I think it's really interesting that you guys kind of decided to turn back and go more towards the independent route of things as time has gone on. Because it does feel like the industry as a whole is shifting more towards a lot of newer artists and younger artists taking the independent route because they can see the success in that. Can you
Mhm.
talk about that pivot point or why, like, what was it that made you as a group feel comfortable with going from you know, I don't want to necessarily say mainstream, but
Mhm.
go back to being a little bit more independent and free because I feel like I can certainly see that in the social media you guys put up online with you're true to yourself, you're authentic to your message, and I think that speaks through what you post online. So can you talk about that pivot back to independence?
Yeah, I think the independence conversation is more about how we've done things internally. I feel like that's the case where, we're still on a major label. It's Verve is a subsidiary of Universal, so we have that firepower of like what you get out of a major, but we're on a much more sort of creative, empowering label where it's really a collaboration with them, and they're super excited to discuss music and how we want to make the music. And I think in the past, when we were on other labels, it was more of sort of like, this is what you're going to do. And I think that really turned us off of the idea of, of doing things that the way that other people wanted them done, because I think you can see really like varying degrees of success with that. If you follow the path that somebody else is prescribing to you, even the success doesn't feel good, right? Because it's not necessarily your path or what you're finding finding the truth in the world. Really, it's not your truth. So finding a label that was really appreciative of who we are as a band and what we want to do, that helped us become more independent internally as a band, and then when we recorded our last record, Aperture, we self-produced it with some friends of ours who were engineering, and that really harkened back to the early days of the band when we self-produced our first record and our second record, which was on Sub Pop Records, which is an independent label. So yeah, I think we've sort of like seen a lot of different situations within the industry as we've gone on as a band, and I think we're just finding that the more we listen to ourselves, the better we feel about making music.
You're going to be at Gas South Arena in September, and I think there's always something to be said seeing an artist live in concert with what you can pull from the music. What would you say is something you really hope fans can pull from the Head and the Heart when they watch you live that maybe they don't necessarily get when they just listen or stream the songs online?
Yeah, I think there's a passion to our live shows where we're almost experiencing the music new every night when we play on stage, whether it's the first time we've debuted a song or it's the thousandth time that we've performed a song for people. I think the having to conjure fresh energy every night is something that we really kind of pride ourselves on, of not going through the motions. It's really about conveying how we feel about the song in the moment, and that's something that we've always tried to do with our live shows, is just really be present in the moment, with the song the way it is that night.
Yeah. I have to ask this. I've seen so many different artists in concert. Is there somebody you feel like you love their live energy with their fans that you kind of see in yourself or you've modeled yourself after? And who's that person for you?
I mean, there have been a few bands through the years where we've really been inspired by the live show. My Morning Jacket is one for sure, where we went on tour with them in Europe, and every night, we were just blown away watching them conjure magic out of nowhere, out of thin air, and I think that was a big sort of inspiration for us as we were going into making our second record. Was we wrote that first record in our living rooms and we were playing in bars to 50 people, So when we got to make the second record, it was really about expanding the sonic palette to a place that could fill a room like the ones we were playing with My Morning Jacket. And in the same way, kind of figuring out how to bring that energy. Dr. Dog is another one. I don't know if you know Dr. Dog. They're a band out of Philly. It's funny, they sort of have navigated that TikTok thing really well. They had a song blow up, and now it's at like 1 billion streams. And they've been one of our favorite bands for 25 years now. So to see them do that has been awesome. But also, they were the first band that ever took us on tour to open for them. So we really got an education on the road from those guys, it was super special.
I think you point out something really interesting there. And, again, coming from my background on the other side of music with radio, it does feel like a lot of times that like alt or indie and rock music, it almost feels dead at times. What would you say to like the younger generation coming up? Because it does feel like they're in their self-discovery era where they are listening to um I don't want to say not to diss on music that's a little bit more mainstream, but it feels like they're listening to more music that's actually played with instruments and with like real passion and real discovery. What would you say to those younger musicians who are getting their footing and getting their identity in music?
Well, I think there's always a cycle of birth and death and rebirth in music and in different genres. And maybe it was time for that to go not back underground. I feel like the Coachella of things, the Coachellaification, if that's a word. I'm going to create a word. It's sort of made the underground music scene not dangerous or not counterculture. It almost became the mainstream. And in a way, I think, it had to go there to kind of come back to a place where people are excited to go see bands in a small venue and support local bands and support small rooms. That's really where culture is made, and then it feeds its way up to the top. So to see bands like Geese getting such mass appeal, and Turnstile, and artists that are really known for community and for their local scene. Turnstile in Baltimore was massive for years, and the way that they've brought that same energy to the Grammy stage is so inspiring. So, I think that there's always room for discovery of new alt and music in that genre, but sometimes it also has to just run its course and then start again. And I think we're in a moment where things are really starting to pick up again for alternative music, which is exciting to me because that's what rock and roll is like. It's a lifestyle for me, and for the people that I grew up with. It's not just a genre of music. It's like the way that you view the world. So it's exciting to see people want to go back to more of a yeah, authentic instrument driven thing.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I just feel like it almost feels like you could feel the music more. You can feel the passion more when there's more of the originality with the music, whether it is through actual playing instruments and not necessarily relying 100% on computer generated or After Effects in audio engineering and audio production.
Totally.
You're going to be in town September 3rd. Is there anything people can look forward to that you guys might have up your sleeve that you can't wait to bring to Atlanta?
Well, it's been a while since we played Atlanta, but we were on tour with Brandi Carlile earlier this year. And there are definitely some surprises where we're going to be maybe collaborating together on stage. But
Oh,
also, we've really figured out how to bring just the best 45 minutes of energy onto stage with her every night. And it really feels like the room has opened up to us in those arenas where we can be ourselves and there's no real pressure to, I guess, overcompensate or overdo something. It just feels like we're able to be ourselves up there, which is honestly the most exciting thing for people to see. I always feel like when you can just be vulnerable and do what you do well.
absolutely. You guys are on social media at the Head and the Heart, and you guys have a website as well. Is there anything coming up in the horizon after the tour is done with Brandy that you can shed some insight on?
Yeah, we might be taking some time to make some new music. So I think that's really the next thing that's on our radar is kind of giving us enough space from the performance aspect and the touring aspect where you can start getting more into the creative mode because they're very different sort of sides of the brain that get worked out. So
Yeah.
getting in there and really focusing on the writing process for the next record is where we're headed.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It's almost like code switching when you speak two languages. Sometimes you just
Yeah,
have to it could be jarring to the brain. I know that for a fact.
absolutely. Yeah, you can't mix
Tyler,
and match.
oh, certainly. I think it's crazy when you see artists doing that. Who did that recently? I'm blanking on who did that recently. And just they just dropped completely new music while they're on tour. I'm like, how did you have time to go from performance mode into the
Yeah,
studio, quickly record, get it out and distribute it? And
yeah.
it shocks me when they do that. Like when
It
artists are
makes me
able to do
think of
that.
Big Thief. They just released a record last year, but in Nashville, I think this past weekend they performed a 3 album new album and they performed it on stage. So it's like 29 songs. And I'm like, how did you have time to write that while touring? And they're just so prolific. And I think that that's exciting about that band. So yeah,
Absolutely. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you guys when you stop by Gas South Arena and you enjoy the rest of your day.
you too. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.